Yeah.
My favorite.
It's Judd's Hockey Show.
And welcome into Judd's Hockey Show, the Wednesday edition, the midweek one, so it's not just Judd and AJ. It is also Jessi Pierce, of course, Bardown Beauties podcast. If you are not consuming that, you should be. It also covers the Wild for NHL.com. And so we expected, Jessi, that AJ and I would do an episode yesterday because it was the start of free agency, and we're like, well, something's going to happen here, and Nico Sturm happened, so we put a hold on it and said, you know what, let's just wait for Jess to join us. All right, so there are some people very upset that I've been upset about this. The Monday show on Tarasenko got a little bit, how can I say this nicely, negative.
No.
And I can explain why, but anyway, since Age and I have certainly stated our opinion about that one, Jessi, I want to start with you. What are your thoughts about what we've seen so far? So Tarasenko acquired for nothing other than you take on his full cap hit for a year to play, it sounds like, second line right wing. And then Nico Sturm is a center who's going to slot in to win faceoffs, kill penalties, but he's very much a role type of guy.
Right. I think the thing that made it okay was speaking with each respective player. We talked with Tarasenko yesterday. We talked with Sturm yesterday, and both understood the role that they were playing. I think in the past, Bill Guerin has made these signings of guys who we deem as third line, fourth line guys, and yet they believe that they're top six. Marcus Johansson comes to mind, right? Even I think Trennan, I don't know, knew his role was going to be buried as much. I think sometimes there's been a misconception with these new guys coming in that they're going to play higher than they should be expecting to. Tarasenko, even though he's slotted in as a top six, I think the thing that stuck out with me is he said, it's not guaranteed. I have to earn that. And I think he recognizes that. I think he truly does obviously want to get to the Vladimir Tarasenko that haunted the Minnesota Wild for a number of years when he was with the St. Louis Blues. And Nico Sturm's faceoffs are incredible. I mean, going back and looking at the numbers, fifth in the NHL, I believe, last season. And he also was another guy that said it's a role he learned to accept. His last go around, he said he thought he was a different player. And he learned in the 4 years that he hasn't been with the Minnesota Wild that this is the guy he is. He's the big, strong centerman down in the bottom, mucking it up and winning faceoffs. And that's something that he's really honed those skills on. So I think that's going to be a good addition. The reason I'm also not as upset now, reflecting back a couple days later, there is nothing in the free agency pool that I need. If there was a guy out there, Nikolai Ehlers still available. It sounds like it's going to take him a while. And I don't know how much the Minnesota Wild truly are going to be in the mix as far as him wanting to be here. Otherwise, there's not really anybody that I needed. So that lessens the disappointment, I think, a little bit, is just the fact that the free agency market became so depleted. Everybody re-signed with their team. Everybody got what they wanted and stuck around. And Minnesota, unfortunately, the result of just a poor free agency this summer. I mean, when guys like Nate Schmidt, who I adore, are getting paid tremendous amounts of money, I mean, it just kind of speaks to what the pool was. So I'm okay with it. I'm excited to see what they can do. I'm excited to see the line combos. Obviously, I have my own vision of them. And I'm okay with it. I think it'll be okay.
So there seems to be some confusion about my angst, okay? Because I'm with you totally. The free agent market dried up. So it like all the centers were gone, aside from the Dvorak, so I think got $5.1 million for a year in Philadelphia. So I have no angst about not splashing. Like, okay, you didn't get a guy, you don't get a guy. That's too bad. It was going to be exciting. It wasn't, but that happens. Here's my concern. Here's my reservation, though, and I continue to hammer this home as far as my worries. One, there is immediate pressure, in my opinion, to win. Like, you cannot go, if you don't get past the first round next season again, like, this is 10 years now. So with that in mind, the Tarasenko thing, I think, is a fine flyer. But you have to be ready to pull the ripcord. And John Hines has shown an inability to do that. Like, Marcus Johansson once in a while would get demoted to the third line, and then he would quickly come back up to the second line. So if Tarasenko plays, and I mean, he scored 11 goals, and look, he might come back and be great. I have no idea. But let's just say he's not. He's played a long time. And if he struggles, will they bail on him? And by that, I mean demote him quickly. I have concerns about that. Nico Sturm, if he's used correctly, is great, but he is a fourth line type of guy who you put out for key draws and stuff. but you don't promote him to the third line because he's just good on draws. So let's just continue to move him up. After what transpired in the playoffs and with Johansson, my concern is what John Hines does to deploy guys and how quickly he is ready to bail on them. So like I don't have a problem with not spending. I have an issue with I don't trust the Gustav Nyquist stunt is enough to make me very, very worried about perceptions of guys. And I mean, Gustav Nyquist was here as a rental and you acquired him and then you wouldn't move him off the third, you wouldn't move him off that third line. You just wouldn't do it. So that's where I'm worried. I am not banging the drum that the Wild should have signed Brock Besser yesterday. But after watching the playoffs and the handling of Johansson previously, I don't understand how anyone doesn't have real reservations that John Hines is going to get this right. And when we get your lines, it's going to be fun because you're going to point out things, I think, and you're probably going to have guys on perception lower than they should be who should come up much quicker. So that's my long-winded way of saying don't have a problem with doing this. Have a problem with the fact that the coach seems to struggle with, you might be a veteran, but you ain't what you once were. And so, sorry, but you're on the fourth line. Or hell, I don't care, in the press box.
I would say part of my frustration, too, comes from, let's say, because I'm seeing, like, articles that maybe this is the new norm, where with an ever-increasing cap space for teams, maybe free agency just isn't what it once was, where you're not going to have multiple marquee signings. You're going to have maybe one, but even then you're going to have it where, like with Mitch Marner, it's a sign and trade where a team is basically being handcuffed into sending something the other way because of potential tampering allegations coming against them, which I wish would have played out because that would have been a tremendous.
That was extortion. That was extortion. Toronto used extortion. If I would have filed. If I was the Golden Knights, I would have filed with the league against. That was complete BS by Toronto to pry something from the Golden Knights. And if I would have attacked the Maple Leafs for that publicly.
What kind of salary cap does Vegas operate under? It's a different salary cap, right? Like, what is this? I'll never understand it. How every year?
I know. But this is the problem again, too, now is you do look at what's transpired in technically the last day, but I'm sure it's been more than that. But the Western Conference, as far as I can tell, not getting weaker.
No, and Utah, I feel like, is taking a pretty decent step forward, too. So, like, this division for the Wild is going to be a lot tougher. But part of my angst, besides, like, what you guys touched on, is if you know that free agency is not going to be this big opportunity for you to go spend like it has been in past years for teams, you have to make sure you take precautions to retain draft picks and do stuff so that you can facilitate your own deals rather than rely on pursuing somebody and persuading, hey, come back home, or hey, here's why this project's right for you and we can offer you X amount of money, which is why, going back to the Nyquist trade, like, it seems so silly now to not have that second round pick in your back pocket for a potential deal, to either do an offer sheet on somebody, or hence why maybe it is a second round pick. The reason why Marco Rossi is still on the team would that be the sprinkles on top to, like, get a deal over the line? We don't know, but you never know now because you just don't have that option to begin with. So it's like the deals themselves. Like, I actually like the Nico, like, I'm not over the moon about it, but I like it about as much as you can like Nico Sturm coming back on a 2-year, $2 million deal. Tarasenko, now that we know how things look, like, it looks better, but at the same time, I'm still not. I don't think it's, like, good. Don't get me wrong. Like, I want to know what his role is going to be.
Yeah. But
this seems like it's kind of avoidable because you could have done other stuff to prevent maybe the situation and how you look now. That's where a lot of my frustration. It's not that Bill Guerin made bad moves yesterday, because I think that was a big thing for a lot of teams. You look at happy for Michael Granlund, but $7 million a year for Michael Granlund for 3 years is kind of crazy. You're not seeing Bill Guerin do one of those moves. So it's like, I'm not going to pat you on the back for cleaning up the vomit that you missed the toilet with. You know what I'm saying? Like, you should clean that up regardless.
That's a vision.
Way to go. You did the job you're supposed to. You didn't, whatever. So
yeah. Jessi?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. It's not sexy. I'm not excited. It doesn't get me raring to go for the year. Like, all right, we're going to get there. It's fine. Like, it's literally fine. It's the K in a text message response, right? Like, I'm kind of like meh about it, whatever.
Well put.
Yeah, what?
Oh, well put. Like, that's a
Yeah.
perfect.
Yeah,
Yes.
right.
That nails
just,
it.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you guys.
Yep. You're welcome.
But I'm interested to see, yeah, exactly how they're deployed. And then if they're going to pull the trigger, as Bill had told us in response to the questions about the signings and the lack thereof, if they're going to be more active at trade deadline. It sounds like that's something that he wants to really be able to do. He had mentioned not being able to dip his toe in to the big names, into the Rantanens, and a couple years back into the Kachucks at deadline because they didn't have the money to do so, right? And obviously, you need to have a bit of players to dangle too, which I don't know if they're quite there, but he will be able to afford at least be in those conversations. But I want him to actually be active then. I need him to be a little bit more active. I do feel like he was a little maybe passive on the trades coming up into free agency, right? Like, I don't know if he had put enough oomph into the move. And maybe he did. And maybe there were just simply no buyers, which I also believe as well. There was not the dance partner that wanted the Marco Rossi's, if you will. So we'll see. I mean, it'll be interesting come training camp how they all mesh. But ultimately, I think those guys should be better fits than I thought. I will admit, I didn't know if Tarasenko was going to fit into the room. But in speaking with him, he seemed a lot better. I think the Tarasenko from the St. Louis Blues always gave me the impression that he was very selfish and very out for himself only, which is the definition of selfish, I understand. But he seemed much more down to earth than I envisioned when we spoke with him yesterday.
Yeah, I went back and watched that. I will say this. It's very easy to sound like that on the day that you sign. Let's see what happens when he's not scoring or when things aren't going. Like, I
believe the good in people, Judd.
No, the amount of introductory press conferences with athletes that I've seen where they signed and it's all hunky dory and they're buying into the messaging, and then the season starts and things don't go great and he's scratched or something and now he's and I mean he might come back and be fine. He also might be washed. We don't know yet. Before we get to your Jesse's Line Heathens combination, give us an update on Marco Rossi and then Kirill Kaprizov, who became eligible to sign a long-term extension yesterday, didn't sign it, but as we talked about, like I think last week, that is not a reason to panic.
Yeah, Bill Guerin said start on the Kaprizov situation. As we mentioned last week, Guerin had talked about it's probably going to be longer. It's not going to happen on July 1 just because it's a big sum of money. It's a big contract to handle and a lot to go through. So no concern there. He did say he spoke with Kirill's agent yesterday and the day before. So they're in constant contact. So that's good. It still seems, that it's going to be a go. It's just a matter of when, obviously sooner rather than later. So no concerns there, especially I think I liked when Tarasenko was like, I talked to Kirill and Kirill said to come here. So it's also kind of like, all right, well, I mean, even if it's just for a year together, I guess, I don't know. Moving on, Marco Rossi, obviously a restricted free agent. And the question was broached to Bill, what they would do if Rossi were to be offer sheeted, and Bill said, we will match. We are prepared to match. I think, he's still really trying to sell the narrative that we love this kid. We do like him. We think he's a very good player. He said, and I quote, I'm going to read the quote that Bill had given us. We like Marco. He had a very good year for us. He's a good hockey player, but we have a structure in our pay that we have him slotted in at a certain level. And that's just the way we're doing our business. This is nothing personal. We want them back and we'll hopefully get to a resolution sooner rather than later. So it is what it is. Part of me wonders if Guerin would like to be offer sheeted, right? Like if you get somebody that's in potential for the lottery and you could get Gavin McKenna,
Well, but the problem is, yes, on one hand, but the problem with that is also it's draft picks coming back, and I think there's pressure. Like unless someone tells me, you know what, the pressure's done. No pressure to win next year. Like make the playoffs, don't make them and go out in the first round again. What it feels to me like is, and the Rossi thing frustrates me because I think it's been bungled from the start. The fourth line thing in the playoffs, like that remains the storm cloud that won't move. Like you can tell me that you like him. You can tell me it's business, but when push came to shove, you took a guy that was second on your team in points and put him on the fourth freaking line with two goons. I mean, two very extraordinary guys in the corner. But it sounds to me like the Wild is operating, right or wrong, under the premise, guys, that this is the team that the team that was, I believe, led the league in points or was the best team in the league into December is the team. And that they had injuries and they were unfortunate. And obviously Kaprizov being out was a huge thing. But it feels like they are very comfortable that they can, that possibly run it back with that team and that's them. And if that's the case, that's awesome. That's a really good team. But if they're wrong, I guess my question is what happens then? And the Rossi thing just seems to be, Billy keeps talking about it as if it's business, and it is to a certain extent, but it also feels to be extremely like confrontational at this point to me.
Correct me if I'm wrong too, because I know you both probably saw it a little more in person than I did, but the quote that I saw regarding Guerin on Rossi was like, and we're still looking to make a deal with him. He's a guy that I feel is pretty truthful, but also I think there's a way to phrase that which allows for an open door of a deal with him could be maybe we sign and trade you, because they still have had like technically could ink him and then send him off somewhere. So could that be a sense of, we come to agreement with him, but it's more so we're going to get him on a term and then send him off somewhere, because similar to Marner, he might feel like, okay, this benefits you guys too. And they're like, look, we don't want to lose you, but I think
they can trade. So I did some digging on this because he's an RFA. They can trade him without him being signed. His rights could be traded. So the team that gets him and Jessi, I feel like you're right. I feel like Guerin is daring teams to offer sheet him. And if the Wild was sort of rebuilding, I'd be like, oh, okay, cool. First round pick, possibly third round pick. I don't know. It all feels very weird. I don't know where it's going. And I guess my only thought in the Wild's favor here is maybe there is something coming, like a Rossi, Ogren draft pick for a really I don't know. And it's been made very clear by the way that nobody really wants to trade. So that might be totally wrong, but it just I guess if I'm going to give Bill Guerin the benefit of the doubt, I'm wondering if there's something up his sleeve.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure there could be, but also I don't know. No, I don't want to think there is, because I don't want to get excited about the potential that there is, right? Like we've been talking about it for months now and it's still not come to fruition. So I'm kind of just like, you know what? Marco Rossi is going to be on the starting night roster if he doesn't hold out. I mean, he has that option too, right? Like he could say, no, I'm not going to go play for you guys right now. So I think it'll be interesting. I think Bill Guerin, as we saw, he just looked a little exhausted. And that's a nice way to put it, right? And speaking with him, like I think he's been trying. I think he recognizes you can't lose Rossi for nothing, but nobody wants to give you what you need back. And I think if you're going to package Rossi and Ogren, yes, you have Marcus Johansson, who currently is my scratched player, but I want another player too, in addition to a centerman. Like I want two players back almost, or go sign Radek Vaska. He didn't sign yesterday, right?
No, he went back to Dallas.
He went back to Dallas.
Everyone's gone.
Everyone. Yeah, then you're done. You can't.
Nobody. Party's done. But I mean, could he trade? And the answer might be no. Could he trade Rossi? And I'm just thinking out loud here. And a draft pick for a center who is better than Rossi, which the answer might be absolutely not. I don't know. It feels right now as we sit here not knowing how it's going to turn out. It feels like the Rossi thing is the most bungled thing. Like the Tarasenko thing's a flyer. If he's demoted, if he doesn't play well, that's fine, actually. The Sturm thing fits a guy who can win a draw and kill some penalties. So, again, I wouldn't call those things completely bungled. The Rossi thing feels bungled. It feels like it's been mismanaged from the get-go, and the fourth line thing in the playoffs absolutely blew up his value.
Yeah, and my biggest fear, because I think I see level on this with Judd, which is they have pressure to win this year. Like you have to do something. So if you get offer sheeted for Rossi and he goes somewhere and you get a first and a third round pick, it's hard to throw just a hypothetical pick on a second line center. Like you're just, who are you going to replace a 60-point center with? Like Ryan Hartman moves up, and then that means Dania Yurov maybe fills in that third, and then you have Nico Sturm on the fourth line, or does Nico Sturm move up to third line and then you have to sign whoever else? Like Pia Suter, I think, is the one blockbuster center still.
Paid.
Like he now is going to get paid too, because him and Ehlers are in similar boats where they're both the prettiest girl in high school getting asked to the prom by every single person. and they're just mulling over offers. I think one is like a Idaho high school, one's like a California high school there with. But
wow, that hurts.
But you get what I'm saying. Like they have the luxury of really making people probably bargain a little bit more than they want to.
Yeah, absolutely. Jessi, we're going to get to your lines, your prospective lines. But first of all, they're sponsored by our friends at Parlor. I've been talking to you about the Parlor burger for how long now? And if you haven't tried it, what are you doing? You're missing out. Chicken sandwich also fantastic. As far as locations go, I've talked about the Parlor on West 7th Street, right down from the X still, but soon to be Grand Casino. I don't even know. Yeah, the cheese spot. Anyway, the building which the Wild Place. And then of course there is the Parlor in the North Loop. But how about this? Out west, folks, Excelsior. That's right by the lake. Absolutely a gorgeous place to spend a day and a great place to stop in at their supper club and a regular Parlor bar as well. So check them out. Parlor, always outstanding. Great service as well. I can speak from firsthand experience because I've been there and it is always fun. All right, Jessi, let's get to it. Your Line Heathens perspective line combinations for the Wild after the Tarasenko and Nico Sturm moves.
And this is what I want to see at first, right? It's the first go around. We can adjust needlessly to say.
This is my favorite version of Line Heathens because I understand mid-season when you like kind of get in the mind of John Hines and do that.
In the mind.
I want Jessi Pierce head coach. These are my favorite Line Heathens.
I mean, yeah, it's okay.
Well, I guess we'll see. We'll see.
Kaprizov, Rossi, Tarasenko to start. I need to see the Russian connection. I need to see if there is something there. That's the only reason I'm putting him up that high. I am ready to quickly move him down should I need to and put Zuccarello back up there, but I need to see that first. I need to see if Kaprizov and Tarasenko can make a nice connection. Plus, we know how Kaprizov can elevate players play. Maybe he gets that old Tarasenko, the Tarasenko that will pull the trigger. Somebody on that line needs to. Tarasenko usually does that quick release. We love to see it. He's going to rejuvenate Vladdy. Then we got Boldy, Ek, Zuccarello. Obviously, right? No crazy there.
Okay.
This is where I go back and forth. Part of me wants to see Ogren, Yurov, Hartman, but I'm kind of leaning toward Foligno, Yurov, Hartman. And then I also, ideally, Yurov is only a centerman for like 1 or 2 games, and then he moves to the wing, and we can put Hartman in the middle. I'm fine with that. I don't believe Danilia Yurov to be a strong center. I know that's what Bill Guerin really wants. I know he's adjusted to play center. I want him on the wing. I just feel more comfortable with him on the wing, but we're going to start him at center. Again, if it doesn't work out, I'm moving Hartman. Then we got Trennan. I'm giving Trennan a second chance. Clean slate, buddy. Let's see if he can carry over from the playoffs. Nico Sturm, Liam Ogren, Marcus Johansson is my scratched forward. Do we want to talk about that first, or should I just continue on to my defense?
No, let's talk about that first.
Judd's got so many notes right now. He's not happy.
I'm writing it down. No, I actually sort of like this. I guess the thing that jumps out to me that I don't like off the top is Ogren being on the 4th line.
And that's where I would maybe, again, Foligno did so well at the end of last season that it's like I want to give him that shot to continue there. And Ogren, I haven't. But again, I'd be willing to quickly reevaluate that after 3 games.
See, this is where I struggle, though, because like in some ways we're talking about, Tarasenko, and if it works, awesome, right? Especially with Kaprizov. But we're also, gumming up the works with a coach who's shown a predisposition to want to play his vets. And so now we've got, like, is Liam Ogren, what's the difference age between Ogren being, and I understand there is one, but what's the difference between him being on the 4th line opening night and in Iowa? Because to me, a guy like that needs to ascend to top 6 very soon.
Yeah,
it's a checking line.
I
also don't trust Sturm not to be put on the 3rd line, by the way.
Yeah, kudos there. I think he's more skilled than Murat Husnudinov. Like, especially offensively, like similar, maybe like not style, but like where you can put them tier wise in the lineup. I think right now, similar. Like I can understand if you think he's a bottom 6 guy. I think his peak is probably a 2nd line winger, but bearing him on that 4th line, you're going to ask him to play a certain style that I just don't think suits his game. So you almost need to put, Am I crazy too, or do they still have Vinny Hinostroza for another year? Correct?
No,
I don't think so.
No,
I could have sworn they do.
Well,
anyways,
hold on a second. I'll find it. No, he's not on.
yeah,
Let's see
no,
here. He's gone, right?
he gone.
Oh no. It says here
I thought he's making
775 roster hopeful. I'm good on him, bud.
He is.
By the way, according to the Athletics line combinations, he is going to be an outstanding Iowa Wild player.
He's going to be great. Awesome.
So I didn't even factor him in.
That's gonna be the leadership that team needs to thrive with Cronin now. But I think in my opinion, if I was doing my version of this, I think you either need to have Ogren third line or you just go straight to Iowa. I don't like the detour on the fourth line personally.
Well, it's a checking line, but the problem here too is, as Bill talked about, we have 5 first-round picks vying for playing time, and he makes it sound like they can break through. But then I look at the veterans that they've signed or that they have, and what John Hines does, and I'm like, can they break through? Like, to me, this is a year Ogre needs to sink or swim. Like, this is the year he needs to, because there's pressure to win, but you've got all these draft picks in the supposedly deep system, right? Which is awesome if that's the case. So, and you're going to bury him on a fourth line, a checking line. I just don't know. And this also is where, because you know as well as I do, Jessi Pierce, Johansson ain't being scratched. This is also where, so you can say, oh, Marcus Johansson came back $800,000. What a deal. I don't care about the money here. I care about what he's gumming up. Like, he's a clog in the drain.
Yeah.
And he's stopping my water from flowing freely down the drain, so now I can't play guys. Like, this is my frustration. Not taking chances, but if you have Tarasenko, didn't we see enough of JoJo to know that, you know what, I'm probably good. Plus, I'm all for removing John Hines' toys. Like, I want to remove anybody he ended up relying on, and I'm like, what are you doing? Why am I giving him back that play toy?
Yeah.
I mean, maybe I'm being naive here, and you can just flat out tell me, yeah, I probably am. But I feel like that Page has turned on their opinion of JoJo. Yeah. Like, and I know they stuck with him to the very end of last season, but like, he could have got so much more going to Europe, right? Like, he could have. So I really feel like the conversation was, hey, I want to stay here with you. And they said, fine, but here's the 2 requirements. You're making $800,000.
Yep.
And we really don't want to play you that often, so you're probably going to get benched.
Yep. So, Jessi, here's a question for you.
Okay.
Have you and Mike decided when the kids have to go? Like 18,
like
20,
forever?
21? Yeah, well, like Dawn's dad.
I could go tomorrow if I could.
In the day. No, I know. But like Dawn's dad in the day said, you're not going to move home when you're 21. Basically, it's sink or swim time.
Yeah.
On Johansson, when he came back to me, I would have been like, Marcus, it's been fine. It hasn't been great. It's been fine. But you need to go. Like I don't want you here. I don't want you as an option here.
Yeah.
So like that's my confusion about that one. Like the Tarasenko thing's a flyer. Yeah. But we don't know what the flyer is yet. So, okay, cool. The Johansson one, we know. We've seen this. And by the way, if he gets in the lineup, he's going to get comfortable until he's not, in which case then he's going to try harder. Like, his act is old. And so that's where I wouldn't have brought him back. But if you're right and they scratch him, then I don't care.
I mean, I'm kind of with Age. I feel like they have kind of moved on. Like, all right, we're going to do you this solid, but that comes with the agreement that you're not going to get the playing time that you had been getting before. I mean, he could try with all of his might, but I think even the salary that he's making, he has to recognize that himself. Like, you've got Tarasenko getting paid more. Everybody's getting paid more minus Ogren, frankly, that they're going to have to play. And but that's not going to be the case. They got to play Liam Ogren.
I agree.
Goddamn Liam Ogren.
Well, and I want him in the top 9. Oh, okay. Jessi Pierce's defensive pairings.
Jake Middleton, Brock Faber.
Hold on a second.
Jonas Brodin.
5 and 7. Yep.
Brodin, David Jiricek.
Okay, so who starts the season with Jiricek while Brodin is recovering from his
that's right.
57 surgery?
I forgot.
He's a 75-year-old man. Let me tell you kids something about the Wild.
I guess you're gonna do Booyum and Yurachek.
I don't think you can do that.
I don't like it either. That's
kids.
hideous. No,
I think you do one of them with Spurgeon.
Okay, Booyum and Spurgeon, and that's my pairing too. So you're gonna do Bogo and Yurachek. But otherwise, in my dream scenario, it's Brody and Yurachek, which I don't know.
But Bogo,
people I've spoken with don't think Yurachek's going to be the player that people keep hoping him to be. So
who are you putting on the left there, though? I know this was kind of altered on the spot, but Bogo or Yurachek?
Yurachek. No, Bogo. I'm going to have to go Bogo. I think Bogo can adjust better. No offense to Yurachek. I think there's more experience there for him to be able to switch her up.
So what do you? We finally see.
I just want Booyum and Spurgeon. How about that? That's my need. That's my priority.
That's the second one.
And they're the third pair.
So what? Okay, let's backtrack for a second.
Or they can be the second pair, I guess. If you're, I don't know.
Booyum Spurgeon is the second pair.
Yeah.
Bogo ain't getting above the third pair if he is not sitting by me with that big beard in the press box. Okay, let's backtrack for a second before we get done here. What have you heard about basically the guy who could become the Herschel Walker of the Wild, considering the price tag on Yurachek? What have you heard about his progress or lack thereof?
Other teams just aren't thinking that he's going to pan out to what the projected playing ability was going to be. He's recovering fine from his surgery. I think he's coming back to Minnesota. He'll be training here a little bit like most players do, like the Wild like them to do. I just have heard, and I had heard things throughout the course of the season that maybe an attitude problem was a little, and understand he was frustrated, right? Like he was traded to be here in a different scenario than he was in Columbus, and that he was put in the same exact position as he was in Columbus. So I can imagine as a player that's incredibly frustrating. But I hear that kind of leaked out sometimes too during their practices with the scratch players and whatnot. So I don't know. I'm very intrigued. Again, they have to deploy him in the right way. You got to at least you got to put him up there, give him the time, give him the minutes. But you're right. If he's going to be settled with Bogosian, that's also kind of not fair to judge a player on that either. Yeah.
And how long is Broads out for? Do we think? Have you heard scuttlebutt?
I think I would guess at least the first month.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, if they're saying he could miss a couple of weeks, just chalk him in for like December.
That'd be a real problem.
God, I totally forgot about that, guys. Good call. Damn it.
Okay, let's finish today's show on a positive note. Let's finish on a very positive note.
Were the D pairings that bad? There's not even criticism. You're like, we're just gonna let her be.
Your top two, I'm fine with.
Middleton favor, great.
Well, no, and Spurgeon, Booyum probably works.
Spurgeon and Booyum. We talked about that last year. I need to see that together.
No, I mean the third one. Well, I'm very concerned about what you're saying about the scuttlebutt. If it's true about Yurachek, that concerns me a lot. But no, I don't think the D pairings are terrible, and I think the top two are fine. I mean, Brock's a stud.
I think
I like Jake. Yep.
I think they maybe see what Carson Lambos can offer after moving on from who do they just moving on from Declan Chisholm in the draft. He's been a guy that's been kind of just like marinating down there, and he had granted he hasn't taken the step that you would expect from a guy that was a late first round pick. Right. So I don't think he's going to be a guy that's permanently in the lineup by any means. He's not going to wow you, but sure. I think he has, in a sense, like if you look at it from Bill Guerin's front office mind, which is he's kind of earned the chance to at least get a shot and get a look. And for them, that might be 2 games, and they're like, absolutely not, get back down.
Well, but that's the problem is I don't trust them to know. I don't trust them on some of the stuff because the leash on the kids can be so short. All right, let's finish today's show on a positive note. We'll start with Jessi. Let's go around the room and say one very positive thing about the current state of the Minnesota Wild.
You're going to have Kirill Kaprizov for the foreseeable future.
8 years. Yay. 8 years. Age, what's one positive thing that you can say about the Wild?
I will say they did not overpay somebody yesterday like I felt a handful of teams did. So, as much as I would have wished they would have been able to make some sort of splash deal that immediately raises their ceiling, there wasn't really that option for them. So I will give them a round of applause for not making a bonehead decision.
My guess is, so This is a big positive. My guess is Grand Casino is paying way more than the X did. So the cash flow coming into the building will be much higher because I think that the price tag probably went up by a lot. How about that? The Wild's going to be making more. Who knows what they can do with it? Possibly remodeling the building a little bit more, since I guess it's not in good, it's not in 2025 shape. Possibly signing guys. I don't know where that cash goes, but you know what? Cash influx, folks.
Let's just get some slot machines like built into the walls there.
I wonder if and when, and this is a big if, sports gambling gets approved here, if they will try to put in some type of sports book into the arena. Because that's done in Chicago with the Cubs. That's done in Washington with the Capitals and Wizards. That's done in Phoenix with the Suns. So I wonder if that is is preemptive the right word? That's the step that they're trying to take. But they're going to get a ton from this. They're going to get a ton. Craig Leopold's a happy man.
Can I read a funny bit? So you know how the Grand Casino has their Grand Casino story? Mm-hmm. This is coming from my husband. I'll even give him credit for it instead of stealing it. He said, I've been a season ticket holder for 20 years, spent thousands on beer, had a lady slap me, been kicked in the balls 4 times, and I've seen the second round of the playoffs twice. And that's my Grand Casino Arena story.
Wow. And on that note, we'll bring the show to an end. That's awesome. Bye, guys.